Hello, everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me, but I hope everyone has had a great day and are excited for the beginning of Global Hack Week this month. I am Ryan, and we have a really cool workshop planned and in stock for today. So if I can just get a quick hi from who's in chat currently, I see Abhinav Malik, I see Mihir Raj Singh. Nice to meet y'all. I see Noto Harry. Let's go. Okay, so before we begin, we have a quick check-in. Oh, I see some more hellos in chat. Kushala Road, Luke7686, Guinea Peg, and Rachel KW. How is it going? I hope y'all are excited. I'm really excited to debut this workshop at Global Hack Week. I also see C7 in Chariot. Welcome. And also, if I mispronounce your name, please let me know in chat, and I will try to fix it as soon as I can. So, if y'all haven't already, feel free to check in here. If you want to get the free swag, that is how you get it. I also see Saraj, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I see Wei Sul, I see Lazy Coder, Cecilio, I see Peugeot and Mima Side. RG Star Coder as well. Oh my gosh, there's so many names in chat. So yeah, if you haven't already, please check in at this link that I've dropped in chat. I'm gonna drop it in one more time. Also see Dubstep Mario and Lickings Lek and Zero Blue Rose. Hello. Awesome. Well, we're going to be beginning momentarily. Again, if you haven't already, check in on that link that's on the screen right there or on that QR code that's on my right. And yeah, so to begin, how's it going, everyone? I am Ryan Lalu. I'm a coach at Major League Hacking. And I, again, want to thank you all for coming to this workshop's debut. This is debuting here at Global Hack Week before we bring it to member events all around the globe. So thank you for coming in. I am also the third Ryan from MLH, and I like lettuce like every other Ryan at MLH. So that is a lot of fun. I also see a hello from Shema Boris. Nice to meet you. So yeah, a few notes before we get started here, kind of just jumping straight into it, is first off, thank you for attending. This workshop, again, is brand new and it might have some hiccups, so I'm excited to see what y'all think of it. So, kind of getting into everything here, during this workshop, we're going to be covering quite a bit. We're going to be introducing GitHub, we're going to be getting access to the GitHub Student Developer Pack, we're going to be learning more about version control systems, then we're going to almost at the end explore Git, and then finally we're going to be using GitHub and Git at the same time and going through a walkthrough example. So it's actually going to be pretty interactive, so I'm excited to see how it will work. Claudeflow says, I have difficult understanding English, but I tried. No worries. As long as if there's anything I can do to help you out, that would be amazing if you let me know. But I will try to speak a little slower, that way it's a little bit more easily digestible. I also see Tien Ran and Vikash saying hi. Nice to meet y'all. All right, well, let's begin. So before we begin, I want to get a quick hands in chat. How many of y'all have used Git or GitHub before? And if not, also raise your hand. Let me know what you have used, what you haven't used, just so we can get a better idea of what the audience looks like here. So for me personally, I've been using Git for quite a few years. I've been using it since I was in, I think, junior high. So it's been quite a bit. Same thing with GitHub. And GitHub is one of my most favorite platforms. I see C7 and Chariot say that they used it before. Bakchod Baigan says they have also used it before. Pachi says yes. Sarthak Suja says that they haven't. That's A-okay. We're going to be covering how to do it this stream. I see Mihar Raj Singh saying they've been using it for 3 months. Ava Choi has been saying that they have used it. Nessie says they've been using it, but just for the basics. Killen Will says yes, they have. Riyab had said something. I think they're saying yes, though. Rachel said they've used it before. Kaylin said they've used it, but I've always forgotten the basics. And then Dubstep Mario said they have used it. Same with Guinea Pig and Tianren. Mutation said that they've used it for personal stuff, but not for collaboration. So awesome. We have a wide variety of knowledge from this audience. So that is perfect for the stream. So let's go ahead and begin. So first off, kind of covering the basics here and just giving an outline. There are two things we're covering here, GitHub and Git. They're not the same, but they are very similar. So GitHub is a cloud platform for code collaboration. It is using Git as their version control system and provides many hosting and sharing opportunities and tools, which we'll cover in a second. It can be accessed anywhere online. So if you are using the GitHub mobile application, if you're using any of the web applications, GitHub desktop, GitHub CLI, you can access GitHub from anywhere. And then additionally to that, if you want to think of it in a more simplistic way, for those that have used Google Drive before, think of it like that, but for code. Think of it like you're storing your documents in a storage area. So that's kind of like GitHub here. But GitHub is like Google Drive, but a lot more. Next we have is Git. Git is a version control system, which we'll cover what that means in a little bit if y'all don't understand it completely, which is completely fine. I didn't understand it until way later in my career. We're also going to be covering next is Git, and Git tracks changes to your code. Think of it as a timeline. As you progress through through editing your code, it's going to change with that. Git can also be used with various other tools locally on your computer. Think of it like GitHub, for example, where GitHub and Git can be used in tandem. And then if you want to think of it in an example-ish type of way, think of it like Google Docs history feature, but for code. So it tracks all of your changes over time. So I see in chat, I'm doing CS50 and we submit using GitHub. Haven't used it outside of that. That is perfectly fine. If you use it for CS50, you probably haven't gone into Git or merge conflicts, which happen a lot in the real world, especially during hackathons. So we'll cover how to do that here. Shamabora said they've used the basics. Abhinav said, a quick question. I live in India and we don't give personal emails. So that should be okay, that should be okay. If you're able to make another email, maybe for your school or work, that would also work for using GitHub. Unless you're referring to the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which we'll talk about in a second. And then I see Vikash saying merge conflicts is the most confusing for you to understand. I completely feel you on that. Merge conflicts are so confusing, and until this workshop, I never even had a full grasp of it. So you'll see as I present it how interesting it is and how simple it is in the end. But like, to me, again, I didn't even know it until this workshop. So it is a great thing to learn. And then my name is Rishab. My username is Rishab. Okay, bro. All right, no worries. Thank you for giving me a heads up. All right, and let's go ahead and continue here. So we're going to be trying to master Git in about 30 minutes here. We're probably going to go towards the 50 minute mark, but there is so much to learn. If you want to get a head start and you want to continue learning past this workshop, I highly recommend checking out one of these two tools, if not both of them. For GitHub, there is mlh.link/gittrained. It is a link to GitHub's official training manual, which is a really good document if you're trying to learn how to use GitHub in a more advanced way. For example, GitHub Actions is pretty difficult, so it teaches you stuff like that. After that, if you're wanting to learn how to use Git in a more effective and maybe a more advanced way, there's also GitHub Education's official cheat sheet at mlh.link/git. So continuing here, you might be asking yourself, why should you use GitHub? And what are the benefits of using GitHub over Git locally or on other platforms? So the answer is quite simple here. Just look at all of that. Look at all of the features that GitHub has to provide. There's GitHub Copilot, Actions, code scanning, GitHub CLI, GitHub code spaces, projects, issues, dependable alerts, pull requests, marketplace, secret scanning, teams, discussion, etc. There are so many things you can do with GitHub. If you're looking to make a new project and you want to create a wiki for it, you can do that on GitHub right down there. If you're looking to make an application that is cross-platform, that can be on mobile and on desktop and as a standalone application and website, there's Electron. They've made Electron.js. That's what you see powering amazing applications like Discord. GitHub packages, if you're wanting to add a new package to NPM, for those that have used NPM before. And there's so many other things you can do. So using GitHub will level up your workflow and level up your productivity. I'm saying this from personal experience. I've used maybe half of these, and the level of complexity that you can achieve with it and the level of detail is insane. It is truly, truly recommendable. So saying all of that, as a student, you actually get a really, really, really cool feature and or product, I should say, and it's called GitHub Student Developer Pack. It is an amazing tool where if you are in school, you really, really should be using this. It is undeniably a fantastic way to level up your time in university. So some things that it includes is GitHub Copilot Pro. So if you're wanting to have an AI companion that can be your 5th hackathon teammate, GitHub Copilot is for you. It is a really cool tool, again, where you get access to the Pro feature. They've recently made it to where anyone has access to GitHub Copilot free, but you get Pro. Then you get GitHub Experiences. Think of it as mini lessons or lessons to learn a technology or learn a fundamental a lot quicker through GitHub and get certified through it. You also have GitHub Code Spaces. Think of it as a way to have your own tiny sandbox or Docker container for whatever project you're doing, which is really nice. If your computer isn't strong enough, you can do it on a GitHub Code Space, and it is perfect for that. And then we also have GitHub Campus Experts. Campus Experts are going to be the students that are in your area or at your university, and they are there to network with and to also learn from. So they will have amazing opportunities to provide to you. Yeah, and if you want to get all of this, go to mlh.link/GitHub. I think it's down there actually. Really, really easy, really nice. To go through it, it takes about 10 minutes to sign up, and you will need a valid form of school ID card as well as transcript. But yeah, and we will continue. And then I see a chat message asking to share the links. I will share all these links and the slideshow at the very end of the stream if you want to check it out. So yeah, let's continue. So saying all of this, GitHub and Git is amazing, but it's kind of confusing once you get into the nitty-gritty of version control. So let's cover how to understand that. So before we begin the intricacies of version control systems and the 4 areas that you can see down to the right over there, we want to understand what version control is. Version control itself enables multiple people to simultaneously work on a single project. This is the core fundamental of a version control system. Think of it as you and 3 other team members, maybe on your hackathon team, trying to work on the same code base and not wanting to have these issues where you're overwriting each other's code, to where you're keeping you're maintaining your production environment. If you want to have a demoable version of it running consistently, think of it as in the real world. Whenever you use discord.com, for example, you want it to never be down. So version control systems help you achieve that. So getting into the gist of everything, in Git, everyone gets their own working copy or snapshot and their repository, which has these snapshots. So that's going to be this working directory over here and your local repository. Most people will think that these 3 are the same thing, and they kind of are, but they're in these 3 distinct and separate areas that you have to understand. Working directory, imagine it as what is in your VS Code, and your local repository is going to be your .git folder inside of your project. So it's going to be the invisible folder that gets created whenever you type in git init, which we'll cover in a bit. As you continuously make changes and you add your revisions, make revisions, remove revisions, all of those will be added to a staging area. That's where we use the command git add. Think of it as you have a file, you make an edit, you do git add and it adds it to your staging area. And also, to explain a staging area, think of a staging area as a place that contains all of your revisions. So as you make a change to a file, and then you maybe undo that with the control, like an undo command, then that will end up being nothing, and you will have nothing in your staging area. So it's an intermediary place to have all of your changes before you push them out to the world. Okay, after committing, which is how you get from staging area to the local repository, others will have no access to your changes until you push your changes to the remote repository. Think of the remote repository as GitHub. Think of as your local repo as that .git file, and your staging area, again, as a place to house all of your changes until you've decided, okay, these are good to go. I'm gonna now commit these to your local, I'm gonna commit them to my local repository. Local repository is gonna be all of these different versions of branches, for example, which we'll cover in a bit. So think of it as you have your main changes, but let's say your friend is also working in that repository on a different branch. So your local repo will contain all of those different branches, and you're just moving your changes to the specific branch in your local repository. Kind of confusing, but these different intermediary areas allow you to have more opportunities to fix any mistakes you've made versus having to do a lot more cleanup where if you make a mistake, it's irreversible. So after, again, you have finished all of your revisions, you commit them to your local repository, then you push them to the remote repository. So now that you've moved your code from your working directory to GitHub, for example, it's time to have your teammate pull these changes in. That way they can view what you've done. So when you try to fetch changes, which is moving from your remote repository to your local repository, you have to first fetch them into your local repository, fix any conflicts if there are any, and then merge them to your working directory. It's kind of confusing, so let's cover this again. So your remote repository is GitHub. Your local repository is on your local computer, but it's your .git file, which houses a lot of different branches or different changes. So as you fetch it, you bring it to your local repository, and then you merge it to your working directory, which is the code that you have currently. I see 404 in chat. Hi, how is it going? We also have U1 and then 6 a lot of times. So after every commit, you have to push. Yes. The cool thing is, because of the way this is set up, you can actually add a lot of changes to your staging area. Once you're done with that, you can make one commit containing all of those changes, and then you can repeat this process again. You can repeat all these processes again and have many commits before you push all those commits at once. So this version of trying to separate your workflow into multiple chunks allows you to make a lot of changes into one commit and then have a lot of commits in one push. Quick question, is there a recorded version of this video? Yes, there should be one on YouTube. You might have to go to the playlist tab on YouTube to find it, but it should be in there. So the working directory and staging area is private, and local repo and remote repo is public. Almost there. So your working directory, staging area, and local repo are all going to be on your computer, while remote repo is going to be on the cloud. It's going to be public to everyone else. The idea is you're having your own version of the remote repo on your computer, so you can emulate that. Think of it as you want to break it on your computer before you break it on everyone else's computer, is the idea with that. So it's like your remote repo, it's just on your computer. So you're kind of emulating that to prevent any mishaps from happening. And it also allows you to find these conflicts before finding them on the remote. Think of it like that. So whenever you cover conflicts, you're experiencing all those conflicts locally versus in the cloud, as the pro of that. 404 says the remote repo can also be private. It's more to help your team work together on code. Yes, technically the remote repo in the idea of this is it is somewhere else, is what remote means. On GitHub, you can have a public and private repository though. Mihir Raj Singh says, hey Ryan, I really like to ask, is there a way to add one part of a file to staging area? Only a part, not the whole changes in that file. That is a great question. Technically you can. The paradigm for doing this is as you make a change and you're wanting to commit it, you would commit those specific changes, or sorry, you'd add those changes to your staging area, then commit them. And then you'd make the changes that you don't want to. But I am pretty sure there are ways to add only portions of a file versus the entire thing. And I would definitely Google that. I don't have the answer off the top of my head because I haven't run into that personally, but it should definitely be doable. And then how do you undo an add, commit, or push? So there are, I'm pretty sure, commands like git, what's it called? Git revert, which you can use to revert commits. When you revert these commits, you're able to essentially have all of, think of it like this, essentially. So as we can see here, git commit moves you from your staging area to your local repository. A git revert is moving your local repository to your staging area. So you'll have all of your git additions there. What you can do to revert git adds is you would just unstage that addition, and that will remove it from the staging area. So you can do that with the git revert command. Rishab says, so Git solves the problem of conflicts and stage management, and GitHub is like a centralized storage. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. So Git is a version control system that helps you solve all of these different problems and manage everything in a neat way. Well, GitHub is like a storage. Yes. 44 said git reset / revert. Yes, and reset also works. Yeah. So it's these commands very dangerous, but the perks of having so many different areas here, as you can see on the right side, is that you're able to have a lot more fail-safes before accidentally undoing all 40 hours of code. And then you can always test on a separate branch as well. Yeah, there are many methods to prevent deleting all of your code. All right, let's go ahead and continue here. Sorry about that. All right, so again, when you fetch changes, you first have to fetch them to your local repository from your remote repository. Fix any conflicts if there are any that appear. So you fix these conflicts when you try to move these new changes from remote to your local version. Think of it like, let's say Billy Bob makes a commit to our project repository, and I try to fetch that to my local. Let's say that I changed the exact same file here, and now there's two different versions. So when I try fetching it, it's gonna have a conflict. The idea here is that we don't wanna have this conflict on remote, we wanna have this conflict on my local. So we fix it on our local, and once we fix it there, we push it back out to the main repository. That way the main repository doesn't have any errors. So when people fetch from there, they don't have, or I guess when people download the repository, they aren't met with Git conflicts immediately. It's a really nice way to prevent these mistakes from happening, and to also have these fixes on your local versus, again, on GitHub. It's a lot better. And then after that, you merge them into your working directory. So think of it as merging it from your .git file, which has all of these different versions and branches, to your working directory, which is your VS Code. And fun fact, if you want to do git fetch and merge at the same time, there's git pull, which we'll be using in this workshop. In my opinion, I pretty much always use git pull. It's the exact same thing as git fetch and then git merge. So it's a great shorthand command. Okay, and then by design, these intermediary areas allow us to work out any problems before affecting our working directory. So putting it again, we want to have these problems in our local versus having them in remote. So that's the purpose of version control. So y'all have just, if y'all have never learned version control before, you just learned the entirety of it pretty much, or the entire basics of it in about 10 minutes. So if y'all thought that was hard, don't worry, it gets easier. If you thought that was easy, don't worry, it gets even easier than that. And I'm talking about Git conflicts. So it gets easier than what we just covered. So we're actually going to be going through a walkthrough here. So if y'all want to join me on this, we will basically be working in partners. If you want to find a partner in chat, it might be kind of hard in a stream format, but if you aren't wanting to do it exactly, that's a-okay. I'm also going to be trying to cover how to do it by description on the stream. So everything will be okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to install Git. If you do not have Git installed, you will want to navigate to mlh.link/get Git. That will lead you to the Git SCM download page where you can download Git for Mac OS, Windows, and any Unix environment. If you're unsure if you have Git, check the step 4 down here and type in Git version into your command line. For Mac, it's going to be called terminal. For Windows, it's also called terminal if you're on Windows 11. And then if you're on Windows 10 and before, it's going to be called PowerShell. And then any Unix environment, you'll have to navigate to just your terminal as well. Once you do that, that should take about 5 minutes to download. It's going to have a lot of pop-up questions. If it asks about Git Bash and you're on Windows, select it as true. But for all those additional add-ons, for the most part, you don't need them. We'll have the partnering up section in a tiny bit. At that point in time, we'll have some examples of partnering up together. It's actually be really fun if you use GitHub as well or have a GitHub account. So we'll have that in about 10 minutes, I should say. So once you have downloaded Git or are in the process of getting Git, for the most part, it boils down to if you're on Mac OS, type in brew install Git if you have Homebrew. And if you're on Windows or any version of Windows greater than 2018, you can type in winget install --id git.git -e --source winget. And that should install it if you're on Windows on a version greater than 2018. What are we meant to see when we type git version if we have it? If you type in git version, you should see something telling you your version. If it shows you some kind of response and it's not saying that the git command isn't found, then you're good to go. The idea here is if git version works, then git is working. So if you are in chat and you do not have Git installed, please feel free to drop in a "Hi, Ryan," or any message to let me know that you are in the process of installing Git. And while y'all are typing away, so the next thing, for Linux or Windows, Git version will work. It changes every now and then. Git with the flag version should work, and Git version should also. And Homebrew is updating. No worries. For the most part, the next few steps are just about making sure that everything in your environment is set up. So while you do that, you can do these other ones asynchronously. So finishing our last step here, step 3. After you install Git or you're in the process of installing Git, the next important thing to do is make sure you know where you can access Git. So kind of before we even type in Git version, you should know where you can use Git. If you're on Windows, any terminal should work if you have updated Windows in the last 5 years, so since 2018 pretty much. Whenever you use terminal on Windows 11, you actually have the option to go to Git Bash. I would recommend using Git Bash over using PowerShell or command prompt. And then if you're on Mac OS or any Unix environment, use the built-in terminal. The terminal, if you're on Mac, Zish is great as it is. Quick question: what if the option to use VS Codium as the default editor is grayed out, but you have it installed? VS Codium, I have not heard of Codium. Is it like a source binary of Git? If it is, you should be able to, in your terminal, type in code dot. If you do code space dot, that will open it up if you have any version of VS Code, even if it's an open source binary, which I think is VS Codium. I'm pretty sure. I hope. Beast of the East asked, can we get an overview of everything we're covering today? Yes, I can go back to that real quick. We are introducing GitHub, which we have just covered. We got access to the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which we covered. We explored version control systems. That's done. And we are now exploring Git and doing a walkthrough using Git and GitHub. So we are almost there. We just have this walkthrough left. What is Git Bash? Git Bash is a terminal that is built for using Git. The reason why I recommend it is I know for sure that you can use commands like ls, which lists files in your file system. Also stuff like cd or make directory. All of those Unix type commands I know for sure work in Git Bash. It also for sure has Git working in it. But it should work on your terminal as well. It's just some computers, depending on where it is in the update cycle, or what they've downloaded might be a bit different, and Git Bash just ensures that it works. If you're on Windows though, if you're on Windows 11, there's actually a way that you can click the drop down and open up a Git Bash terminal, and that comes by default whenever you install Git. Yeah, and let's go ahead and continue. So once you have confirmed where you can access Git, you should be good to go using Git. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to verify that we have linked our GitHub and Git together. This is very, very confusing. And the best part is everything that you need to know is right here. This should cover pretty much all of your problems. So the idea here is that when you use GitHub from your Git or from your local computer, you have to verify and authenticate that you are actually the user that is connected to your GitHub account. You don't want some other bad actor being able to access it. So the first thing that you can do to test if it works is type in this command: git clone https://github.com/mlh/intro-2-git.git. I will also type this in chat. It is right there in chat. If you type that and it works, then you are good to go. If it asks you to authenticate yourself and add a password, then we will cover that in step 2. And for the majority of y'all, if you haven't used GitHub in your CLI before and it's your first time, you will have to go through step 2. When it asks you to use a password, it's kind of gonna bait you with it because you can't use passwords anyway. It's been deprecated with GitHub. You have to use a alternative way to do that, which includes a GitHub Pat token. That's really complicated. We're actually gonna be using a much simpler method called GitHub CLI. Does anyone know the reason why GitHub rejects for the GitHub Student Developer Pack? Yes. So the idea here is that there is a lot of bad actors that try to get the Student Developer Pack when they aren't a student. So a lot of people trying to pretend to be a student to get access to the amazing features it provides. The idea here is they want to for sure authenticate that you are a student and you're not someone trying to look like a student when you're actually not a student anymore. So they require you to have a date or a graduation date on your ID. If your ID does not have that, they allow you to upload your transcript. And I think nowadays they also require you to upload it before. So there's a lot of steps to make sure and verify that you are a student. If you have all of the steps though, they should verify you within the next few days. What is meant to happen when we run that code in the terminal? Yes, so I can run it here real quick on my local and pop that up here. Give me one moment as I bring that up here. Okay, let me just add this real quick. Give me one moment. So whenever you run that command, if it successfully is able to clone it without any issues, that is what's meant to happen. The idea here is we're just trying to test if you're able to clone the repo without any problems. So let me share this extra screen real quick. Give me one moment. Okay. Let me know if y'all can see this. Okay, so if I type in the command git clone, let me make sure this is a bit bigger. So if I type in git clone and I type in https://github.com/mlh/intro-2-git.git, we should see something like this. It says cloning intro to Git, enumerating objects, counting objects, etc., etc. The idea is we want it to successfully clone. If it is not doing that for any reason, we'll have to go back to step 2. So let me quickly present that again. Give me 1 second. It's a little janky to share my screen. Okay. Let me know if y'all can see this. Okay. What is the command after install ID in step 2? Oh, yeah. Okay. So if cloning the repository was unsuccessful, you'll need to authenticate with GitHub. The easiest way is to use the GitHub CLI to authenticate yourself. Now for Windows, it's win-get install --id, then github.cli. If you're on Mac OS, it's as simple as brew install gh. Once you've installed the GitHub CLI, you can use a lot of the cool features on it, but specifically, we're going to be using gh auth login. So gh auth login allows you to basically log in with GitHub. It's going to send you to a web page and give you a token on your command line. So copy that token from your terminal or command line, paste that into the new pop-up web page. Once you do that, click authenticate, and then it's going to send you back to the command line. And after that, you should be authenticated successfully. All right, so as everyone does that, I'm going to quickly just type that in chat so y'all can do that while I continue moving on. Did you install the GitHub command line Rishab? If you install the command line, you might also need to restart your terminal. Oh, I feel that. But yeah, you might need to, I typed in brew install gh for MacBook. You might have to restart your terminal and open it up again to get it to work. But yeah, let me know if you have any other issues with that. But do we only need to get up with auth if step 1 didn't work? Yes. If step 1 didn't work, then you'll need to authenticate your GitHub. If it appears later on in the process, we'll also come back to the slide and authenticate ourselves. If you clone it successfully, you are good to go. There's no other action needed. So let's go ahead and continue. And again, if you have any other problems, make sure to drop a message down in chat and I will try to help y'all. So moving on to step 2, we're going to create a local GitHub repository. But before we do that, I'm going to check out Rishab's message. GH auth login. Where do you use GitHub? Use arrows to move. Type filter github.com. Other could not prompt. Incorrect function. You appear to be running in min-tty without sudo terminal support. Oh, yes. So try running this inside of git bash. If you're on Windows 10, you should be able to search up git bash in your search. If you're on Windows 11, you can open up terminal and make a new terminal and select git bash from the dropdown. Oh, that is git bash. Try it in another terminal. Try it in PowerShell. See if that works at all. You could also do the gh help min-tty command that it's telling you to run. That might also help you run it in min-tty. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. So we're going to create a local GitHub repository. The first thing to do is to make a directory. So we're going to type in the command mkdir or make dir, and we're going to type in the name of our first repository. So this could be my first repo. It could be Git Good with Git. It can be whatever you want it to be. Then you want to navigate to the directory, which you can use with the cd command, which stands for change directory, and then the my first repo, or whatever you named it originally when you made the directory. Once you are inside the directory, you can type in git init. Git init is going to create that secret.git file that's hidden, and that's what contains all of the beautiful functions and features that comes with Git as a version control system. Okay, so once you do that, we are then going to add files and make our first commit. So normally this sounds really, really complicated, but in the end, it's literally just one command. So that's the best part of it. So if you want to follow along in VS Code, I have for most of these slides, the way to do it in VS Code. But for the most part, during this demo, we're going to be running it in the CLI. So while I do that, I'm actually going to quickly share my screen. That way I can do it live while we present. Okay, let me know if y'all can see this. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna bring back up this this terminal. Oh, bring back up this terminal, and we are going to make a directory. So I am going to, give me 1 second. I'm gonna make a new directory. So I'm gonna cd. Okay, and I'm gonna quickly clear. So I'm gonna make a directory and I'm gonna name it Global Hack Week, or GHW to make it simpler. I'm going to cd into GHW. Then I am going to git init. So I typed in those 3 commands, and now we see a message saying initialize empty Git repository in where my file is located. So after that, we can type in this command, which is echo, and then in quotes, hashtag my first repository. And then we are gonna pipe that into a README file, which I'll cover real quick. So I named it my first repo. Let's go. All right. So to explain what this command is, echo is, imagine it as a write or a display command. So when you type in echo and you don't do anything with it, let's say I remove this README, it's actually just gonna print out what we typed in it. So it's like a write command. If you don't put it in anywhere, it's gonna write it to our terminal. If we use this pipe command or this pipe symbol, this means put whatever we have on the left side into the right side. So if we're going to write my first repository in a message, and then we pipe it into a file, let's say a readme.md file, or it could be a hi.txt file. When I type cat hi.txt, cat just stands for catnate. It means list out everything inside of it. We can see that this hi.txt file has my first repository. I'm actually going to remove hi.txt because we aren't going to be putting in that. We're actually going to be putting it inside of a README file, which is this readme.md. So if I type cat readme.md, we can see in print again my first repository, which is exactly what was intended. So for those that don't understand or don't know what a README file is, README files are used a lot, especially in GitHub, and they're basically text documents that provide information about whatever folder you have or repository. It's a descriptive file. The .md file extension basically signifies that it is a markdown file, which is used as a quick way to format with English characters or just symbols, basically. It's a really nice way to write documentation very fast. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this new file to our staging area. So I'm going to type in the command line, git add, and then you can actually use the git add dot command, and it will add every change that you've made. So right here, I did git add readme. You can also use git add dot. So if I type in git status, we can see that in our staging area, we have a new file, readme.md staged, which worked successfully. All right. So continuing on here, if you're using VS Code, you just click the plus button to stage your change, and then you click commit to commit it, which is right here. So to commit this on the command line, we type in git commit -m and then our message. You have to include a message. So I'm going to type in git commit -m for message, and I'm going to say my first, I'm going to do committing live at GHW. Ooh. Oh, why is it doing dequote? That's interesting. Did it work? Oh, that's weird. Oh, there you go. Okay. That was odd. I don't know why I did that, but we can see here that we have git committed with the message committing live at GHW, and it said one file change, and it committed with the commit message. All right, so that is everything we're going to be doing on local for now. The next step is to navigate to github.com, And we're going to create a new repository, and we are going to follow these instructions. So I'm going to quickly navigate to github.com. So github.com. When you log into GitHub, you should see something kind of similar. You'll see a lot more on mine with a lot more changes. Thank you for following me. But yeah, we're going to navigate to over here where it has this new button. We're going to click that new button, create a brand new repository. There's only one main thing that you want to edit here, and that is adding a repository name. And then if you have multiple accounts or multiple organizations, you're going to want to put in yourself as the owner. So I'm going to put in GHW Git. And that's going to be my repository name. You can also optionally add a description. So I'm going to put in committed or developing live at GHW. And the main thing to focus on here is if you're in a hackathon setting, please keep your repository to public. It helps with judging. If you're doing a personal project, feel free to do a private repository. After that, do not select add a readme, .gitignore, or a license. Keep it all as unchecked. Ideally, you would have those enabled, but because we're starting from our local and going to the remote, we don't want any of these files added that will add a conflict to our files. So for the most part, you normally would have these checked, but that's when you're going from remote to local versus local to remote. So we're going to create that new repository there. The main thing to look for here is this link. You want to copy this link. It's mine's going to be https://github.com. It's going to be my name, and it's going to be the file, the Git repository name .git. Can you comment on why license MIT wasn't used? So you technically can use it. The reason why I recommend not doing it, at least for this workshop, is because when you're going from your local to your remote, you're trying to push all of your changes from local to remote. For the most part, you really just do not want to have MD for sure, and you can have the rest, but we just don't want to have any conflicts. You can add it right after as well. You can use it if you want to. It's just, it might result in some conflicts depending on what you have on your local. But as long as you don't include the README from GitHub, then you should be fine. All right, and let's go ahead and go check back here. So once you've done that, you want to make sure that you, again, you create your repository. You want to make sure that during this workshop, you keep it to public, and then don't select any of the following. In the end, you can select .gitignore and a license, but just make sure you don't select the add a readme file. After that, copy your URL. It's going to be in the format of https://github.com, your name, and then the repository.git. So we're going to type in this command to add this repository as a remote repository, and that's going to be git remote add origin and then the repository name. So it's going to be in this format in chat. So if I were to use this with the same format earlier, it's going to be this right here, and we're just going to type in git remote add origin. So I'm going to go back to the CLI. I'm going to type in git remote add origin, and then my link that I got from GitHub. And if everything worked successfully, you won't see any message responded, which is good. And just like that, we have added that GitHub repository as a remote. Okay, if I'm talking too fast or I'm yapping too much, please let me know. Trying to make sure that we finish on time. All right, these last steps, we probably aren't going to be able to get to our collaborative part, so we're just going to try to cover these last bits as soon as we can. Sorry about that, but at least we'll be able to cover everything. So the next thing to do is you want to connect to GitHub. So you want to ensure that the branch that you are on is on main. We're going to cover branching in a second, but for the most part, just know that you want to type in git branch -m and then main. And that will make sure that you are branched out to the main branch, which will be right here. After that, you want to sync all of your changes and push what you have changed onto GitHub. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in the git push -u, which means upstream, to origin and main branch. So I'm going to type that. I'm going to git push. If everything was good to go, you'll see the message saying that like everything's successful, as you can see here, done, correct, everything good. If not, and you're getting an authentication error, you want to check step 1B again, which I'll include in the slides after this workshop. So now that we've covered that, let's cover some more fundamental and important things to learn. So understanding branching is really, really important when it comes to GitHub. I'm also going to change this music. Okay, there we go. So understanding branching is a really foundational concept in Git. The idea here is that the main version of your project is housed in the main branch. You can also see it be called master branch. But for the most part, as you can see in right here, let me zoom in a little bit as well. We have our main branch. And for this example, we're going to have this script. And this is going to be our main code. When you're experimenting and working on a team, it is often useful to branch out from the main branch. So you make all of your changes in what are colloquially known as feature branches. As you make changes to project files, changes should be committed to the feature branch. And after that, we'll talk about how to bring those back in. But as you can see here, we have this script, and it is on this custom pyramid, which is a feature branch. And it contains an edited code for the same file. So we have this new const c is equal to the pound character. When your feature is ready to be merged with your main branch, you may open up a pull request, which we'll call a PR. And these PRs don't need to be perfect. It's meant to be as a starting point that will further be refined and polished through something called code reviews, which think of it as you give your code off to a partner, and this partner will review it and let you know what to change. So as you can see here in this code review, we've renamed sim, which stands for symbol, to C, which stands for character. And that's what was talked about in the code review. Once you've made that edit, then the changes in the PR will be approved. Once they are approved, the feature branch will be merged onto the main branch or any other branch you're trying to merge into. So for this example, it's going to be called, for this example, we're going to be merging into the main branch. So as you can see here, once we've done our code review and everything's merged in with the pull request, we now have the new edits done. So that's basically the entirety of branching. You can do this with any other branch as well. You can make a custom right-hand triangle branch and merge that into a custom pyramid branch. You could branch pretty much anywhere. So if you understand branching, let's move on to something a little bit more complicated. So normally we would, or ideally we would be going through and doing a partner working where you're able to commit to someone else's repository. Unfortunately, we don't have the time for it this stream, as we had a lot of questions and hopefully we had a lot of learning as well. So that is a-okay, but I'm going to cover it as if we were doing a partner project. So we would ideally form a group of 2, and everybody would select one repository to use. If it was selected, you would essentially share that remote repository URL and then navigate to GitHub and give them access to your repository as a collaborator. If you are the partner that is going to be cloning from your partner, you are going to check your email inbox, accept the invite, and then git clone that to your local. No problem, Rashab. Hopefully the recording helps it a little bit. I know it's a little confusing. I will also be sending out the slideshow in the Discord if you're free there. So yeah, moving on. Next, making changes. So we're gonna simulate a Git conflict. So if we were doing this live, you would select one partner that would make changes first. This first partner is going to make changes to the README file. So we're gonna call it partner one's changes. They're gonna add the README file to their staging area. They're gonna commit it, and they're gonna push it. After partner one has made their changes and pushed their changes, partner two is gonna do the exact same thing without pulling their partner's changes. So they're gonna start immediately off on the same original snapshot and make the same changes without taking the new changes from partner one. After that, they're gonna try to git push, and they're going to be met with a very big error. And that error is gonna say that it is not possible because you have to reconcile merge conflicts. So the error there, if you were to do that, is intentional. So we're gonna cover how to handle these merge conflicts. So normally the version control system will merge all of these conflicts or non-conflicting changes that are easily reconcilable. If not, then a merge conflict will occur when at least one other user makes a change different to changes to your changes to the same lines of a file. Think of it as someone makes a change to your my first repository comment in your README file that you just created a few minutes ago. If two people make the same changes without pulling, it's going to have that Git conflict. So the idea here is merge conflicts are going to be whenever, let's say we have this main branch of J's fruit list. Let's say that Lisa makes her own branch and she's changing her favorite fruit. And then J commits, and then Lisa tries to commit. What's going to happen? If both of them tries to commit and they try pulling, if J tries to pull these changes that Lisa has just made, he's going to experience a conflict. So what happens here is that the first two lines are both different. Lisa changed the first line, J did not. Then J changed the watermelon, and Lisa also changed watermelon. Then the third line where it says to.orange is going to change with Lisa's because he never changed it. J never changed it. And then line 3 is going to be banana. Sorry, line 4 is going to be banana because J didn't change it, nor did Lisa. So it's going to stay the same. So the idea here is because they both edited the same lines, it's going to have a conflict. I also realized that line 1 shouldn't have a conflict. It should just be line 2. So if you were in VS Code, you should see something like this. You're going to see a merge conflict where J's current version has J's fruits and watermelon, and then Lisa has pineapple being changed, as well as her name. So in the end, it's going to have this merge conflict. If you wanted to reconcile it, you choose any one of these options on top in VS Code. So concluding here, when you're resolving these conflicts, you want to, you might have to change your git config rebase strategy, and you want to set to false so it git merges. And with all of that, you just manually remove everything or use your IDE, and that will fix everything. And that is how you resolve merge conflicts. So unfortunately, we weren't able to run this live during the workshop. That is a-okay, but hopefully this helps a little bit. I'm also going to be releasing these slides if you want to see them and catch up, and we will also have everything up on YouTube. So if you enjoyed the debut of the Git Good with Good workshop, please feel free to scan this QR code on the right over there and leave some feedback on how we can improve it. We're going to be I'm going to drop the slideshow link in Discord. Besides that, if you enjoyed Global Hack Week, then feel free to stick on the stream and learn with Jocelyn and Charbel how to ace your hackathon submissions and pitch. And it's coming up right after this. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Hopefully this was a good debut of it. And yeah, I'll be in the Discord if you have any other questions, but I'll include all of the slides there. Also, if you signed in, you should also receive the slideshow shortly. So yeah, have a good day, everyone. It was nice meeting with y'all. Bye.